let's just move on. So we'll start with JavaScript. Why do we have JavaScript in? Why do you have JavaScript in? Why do you have variable? What's the need of variable, right? If we, yeah, what is this variable? And it's very important. Most of you, it sounds unfamiliar. It's just like this is the first time you are. So some of you is like this is just the first time. That's what I'm trying to say something. Okay, some of you just like this is the first time you are hearing the word variable, right? And I believe there are some here who has probably come across variable and read about variables on their own. So I'd like us to those people to indicate so that we'll call them on to share with us what they understand the word variable and why do we have variable in programming, because not just JavaScript alone, almost all the programming language have variable. So please indicate if you have any idea. I would like you to share your brain on that. I will not call names, but please indicate if you have any idea on why we have variable. I'd like you to help us. Okay. I will appoint somebody who will be assisting me. I will not be always bringing my phone and let me check most of these my comrades that are here. One of the co-leader that is here. If you I think I know them by name. Co-leaders. This is my co-leader. Nkem God.
Sir.
By the power invested upon me by our amiable President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is doing well, who love Nigerians, who love the masses, who have Nigeria at heart, who want the betterment of this country, who is willingly to give himself for the country, the best president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria since 1960, President Tinubu. So by the power vested upon me, Tinubu, I appoint you the temporal host of this wonderful class. Thank you. Right, all right. Please, you have the floor. When people indicate, call them to come and speak. So I will not be always on and on. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
All right, write down.
Okay, let me look at. Okay, Terence, you can speak.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. In a layman's language, I'll say a variable is a container where we store values. But in the actual sense, when it comes to programming, a variable is a memory location where we store values. And then we can now reference those values or call those values using the names given to it. And so those names are the variables.
Okay. So you say the variable is what? Please, can you recap again so that we can record the definition?
Okay. So what I said was, in a layman's language, a variable is a container where we store values.
Okay.
Then if it actually comes to computer sense, a variable is a memory location where we store values. So these memory locations are given a name, and these names are the variables. So if we want to get that variable we have stored in that memory location, we use the name. So those names are called the variables.
Okay. All right. That's nice. So, who else can try? So call Kem got another person.
Maxwell.
Good evening. A variable is like a folder that is used to keep information. So in programming, if you want to keep information, you want to store some record, you want to keep some data, you would need a place to keep it. And that place is what is called a variable. So we use variable to keep record, to keep track of things that is happening. For instance, if I'm writing a program that would have to add two numbers, the two numbers would have to be kept in a place. So that location is what is called a variable. So the variable is used to act like a folder that data are stored in.
Okay, that's okay. Now, why do we even need variable, right? I think everybody have shared their brain on what is variable, which is very very important. And first, we need to know why something before you go to the definition. Very very important. All right. I'd like to go into a practical example because very soon we'll be building, and of course, let me use any of this site that I've built. Okay, let me use this site, just a recent site that we built with our team. This network is really not friendly tonight. Just need to bear with me. Just need to bear with me. Network not friendly. I swear to God. Swear to God, man. I will force to use this. What I call it. I will force to use VPN if this insists. Because I will force to use VPN. Now, you didn't go, that means let's just leave it. Okay, done. Guy Punit, well, let me. I don't know why this just giving me problem. Can assist. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I don't know. My internet is blocking everything blockable. I don't know if it's
It's
network.
pointy and it's having issue.
It's network. But however, I still have any of these local. Let me call that locally. Let me just open one of my job locally, then be able to explain because I need a real live explanation on this so that you can have this basic understanding. So, don't worry, this is not class. I'm not teaching. May not think say wetin I dey do like this. So this one I'm not teaching. Oh, CD. 44. Alright, I guess small bug. Let me fix it. 44, 40. Okay. For 144. 144. Only 44. Okay. On delete. Okay. Okay. I will move in. I will move in so that I will move in before calling the variable. Okay, now can you guys see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Alright.
Yes, sir. Yes, boss.
Okay, here now you are seeing an e-commerce application that has vendors, right? Has a different section, right? Like Jumia. Most of you know Jumia. Okay, now this e-commerce platform, and you agree with me that all information in a software are stored in the database, right? The same way every information you process as a human being are stored in the brain, right? Are we communicating? Nkem God, please.
Communicate.
All right. So, Nkem God, please, if you respond to me, other people can stay muted.
Okay, sir.
All right. So,
Okay, sir.
every information in a software are stored in the database. I'd like you to visualize Facebook, for instance. You will post something today, you come tomorrow and you see those information there. See how many likes or how many tweets you had, right? You can also monitor who engages your tweets. You can also watch who comment your tweets. You know, whenever you log into that particular account, you see all this information. That means those information are stored in the database with a particular session, which is your account. And for you to authenticate this process, you need a password and a username. If that condition is met, then you'll be allowed to log in. That one is from the database. And not before any information will be stored in the database, those information must be temporarily stored somewhere. Let's just use this to those using Microsoft, right? So as you are typing, you are doing that design. At that point, it is not saved on your hard drive, right? Until you hit Control X. So when you hit Control X, those information will not be stored on your hard drive. But that particular moment you are typing those information, they are stored on the memory of the computer. And if by mistake the system went off, there is probability you may recover those files or may not recover those files. Are you communicating?
Yes, sir.
Good and fine. Now this is where variable comes in. I have used a software like Facebook for instance, right? Then I also use a system as also example. For most of you who are typing, right? most of you are typing something in your phone. Like some phones are auto-save, right? But let me use laptop for instance. Those who are typing something in a laptop, and as you are typing that stuff, at that time, it is not stored or saved in your local drive. It is stored in the memory of the system. Now, look at variable as in Microsoft. When you type something, it is just there until you save it. So it's not possible to store something on the system when you are writing it without first having it on the system memory. Do you agree with me? You cannot open document and save and say, okay, I want to save this. You need to type first. The memory of the computer have to hold those information temporarily that will enable you save this information in the system. Then when I look at it, a variable, right? So a variable is just like the temporal memory of your software, right? Temporal memory of your software. So any activities you are doing will be stored in a variable until you hit the what? A database. So if you don't hit the database and you go outside that page, when you come back, you are not seeing those information. Now let's say I want to shop, right? I like phones, most especially Android phone and iPhone. So let's say I want to shop an iPhone. Come here, I can see a lot of things to shop. Let's say I decide to shop this man here and hit add. So it automatically add to cart. Now when I come here, this thing is not just stored in the database of the computer. It is stored in a variable with the help of a session. Now when you come here, you see this information. This information is not in the database. So this information are temporarily stored in a variable. There is a variable name in charge of this information here. There is a variable name in charge of this information here. So variable can store anything, pictures, videos, image, anything at all. So a variable is a container that temporarily hold or temporarily store your information before you hit the database. So it is very, very important. You cannot do anything or store anything in the database without first storing it in a variable or assigning it in a what? In a variable. Are we communicating?
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I will be very, very explicit in today's class so that you understand. Then when we understand this, then when we start writing variable, you may now understand, oh, this is what the big head man is explaining. Now I grab it. It is what it is. So a variable, just like a basket that temporarily store your information, it will not be there, but you're just add to carts. You're just bringing those things together. But when a certain condition is met, you hit the submit button. Then, when you hit the submit button, it store this thing on your database. Let's also use Facebook post for instance. When you're typing a post in Facebook, if you mistakenly reload that page, when it come back, will you see it? Of course, you are not going to see it until you hit the submit button. So when you hit submit, boom, it goes through your database. So it is the duty or the responsibility of a variable to temporarily hold those data, those information, that shoes that you're ordering in Konga or Jumia, that phone you want to buy for your wife, your side chick, your girlfriend, it's temporarily hold them in a variable and then store them in the database. That is the responsibility of a variable. Now, variable They are for storage of what? Data. Now, variable provide a way to store and manage data within a what? A software system. It provides a what? Storing and managing what? Yeah, datas. That is only what variable is. It helps you to manage and what? And store what? Yeah, datas. Now, a variable is a container for storing data values. It is like a label box where you can put information and give it a name, so you can refer to each letter in your word, in your code. Of course, variable can hold different types of what? Datas, such as image, text, pictures, videos, etc. and etc. I've used a like an online shop, for instance, where you add things, you can accumulate things. I can decide, okay, I want to go in here and add another thing. I come back to the home page and then add this one. Then come back here and click. So just like a variable. So now, like I said, it is temporarily stored. So when you are storing things in a variable, and you need to assign it in a name, so that whenever I need this thing in the future, I can refer to that variable. I can do what? Refer to the name I used to store that variable. Are we communicating? So basically, that is the definition of variable. I like to give another definition, another explicit definition. A variable is a name storage for data, where we can use variable to store goodies, visitors, and other data. Right? That's what variable is all about. So I will learn first how to create a variable. Then when we look at how to create a variable, then we'll now look at a real life analogy, so we can easily understand the concept of a variable. And then in that analogy, we then create a small application that can help us understand variable. So first we look at variable naming, but before that we need to create a variable and store few data on that variable and see if we refer to that variable, what are we going to get. So before we move in, there are different types of variables, and each variable has a specific functionality. So that when you see me using this variable, I'm also going to explain the functionality of each of these variables. So what we are going to do here is that will come to this man later. Let me close all this, open this man, and come here. So this is class 2. So I'm going to declare class 2. Here I create a class 2. So in this class 2, I'm going to create index.html. Index.html. So let me rename this. I think I did a mistake there. dot html.
So it looks like you created a folder this time.
Is it a folder? Let me remove it. Okay, let me use. Really? So index.html. So in this index.html, let me change this to Django HTML rather. So all right. So let's move on. So we have variable. So what I'm going to do is, of course, I have my HT welcome to my variable. I can flow this side, variable class. So now I'm flow this other side. I'm in class. I can't open the door for you now. Sorry. So because if you remember what we are going to do is that here we are writing HTML, right? Welcome to my variable. If you right click and view server, you are going to have this in our HTML, right? So we want to write JavaScript. So we can't write JavaScript with an HTML where you have your HTML. So we'll come down here and write scripts. So when you use script, just like the way you write your CSS. So when you are using inline CSS and or internal CSS rather. So if you are using internal CSS, you need to call in a CSS tag for the browser to recognize that the code in there is CSS. The same principle implies when you are writing JavaScript. So you also required to write JavaScript inside a tag name script. Are we communicating? I'm just talking to myself. Are we communicating? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Communicating, sir.
I'm going to impeach you. I'm going to impeach you, Mr. President. I will impeach you.
Sir, network issue. I'm back.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I want to write a variable. I want to store something in a variable, right? What I want to install. Okay, let me see. I want to store some goodies, something sweet. Right, I will start by writing let's. So let's, are we communicating? Let's food. So this let food is a variable. So for you to have food here is a variable, but for you to assign that variable, you need to call let. Let A is a variable. Let B is a what? A variable. Let Tinubu is what? A variable. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Let Bugari is what? A variable. So let's. The reason why I'm using let's, so that I can be very, very explicit in my explanation tonight. So I say let's. Like I told you, a variable must have a value. Just that, okay, I have a basket. Then I'm going to the market. Let that be baskets. So that basket is empty. The variable is what? It's empty. If I decide to say, okay, variable equals to empty string, right? That means this is empty. Means there is nothing here. I just assign empty string. So, like I told you the last class, there are 3 ways to print something in a what? In JavaScript. Are we communicating?
Yes, sir.
There are ways.
Communicate.
There are ways to print what in JavaScript, which we did that last class. We're also going to do that now on how we can be able to print in JavaScript. For most people who are not available, we also need to help them to show them how to print in JavaScript. All right. So now, if you look at what I did here, there are 4 ways in which you can print in JavaScript. There are 4 ways. So we are going to be looking at those 4 ways. The reason why I'm recapping this class, because last class some people were not available, so I would like to use this class also for those that are not available. Okay, let's move on. So, like I told you, one of the way to print in JS first is to use console. So console will not print directly to the what's that called? So quickly I'll say, okay, console dot what dot log. So that console dot log, I can decide I want to print something here. I call it stream. Hello what? Right? Hello what? Hello what? So now this information here will not be available on our browser screen. This information here will not also be available on our browser screen, because we are using JavaScript. So when we come back to our browser and we right click, then we go to console. Then if you go to console, you will now see what we printed. Hello world, hello world. That is one way of printing something in JavaScript. Then another one printing something in JavaScript is use what we call alerts. Are we communicating? Alert, right? So to print using what? Alerts. So a console is an inbuilt function in JavaScript that allow you to print or output to a browser word console. It's a JavaScript function. So when you see anything like this, it's called a function. Are we communicating? So we are going to understand what is function and how function has made it easier for us to be able to write code and group our code, so that we will not do what we call dry, we will not go against what we call dry principle. Who can tell me what is dry principle?
Don't repeat yourself.
Don't repeat yourself. So fantastic. So next thing to print in JavaScript, we are going to call alert. The alerts, if you cannot remember bank alerts, when you hear preng, so those are earning salary, and those that are like us that don't earn salary, entrepreneurs, is based on what we work at, is what we chop. When you finish negotiating with a client and it's okay, you receive alert tomorrow. If your phone do preng, you open the phone and check. Surprisingly, you will see that your data is left with 100 MB. You go first, see which can take MB it is. Wake up in the morning, you check your data has finished. You put hand for head. Yeah. So that is not the kind of alert. The kind of alert I'm talking, the one that will come up, bam. You remember that babe that I have not talked to since. I've been calling you, but I call this babe today. You understand? For most of us that are pastors like me. So you know what I'm talking. Right? So this kind of alert. So when you say alert, hi, I am learning yes, right? So when we visit the page, you see alerts, right? Let reload. You see, hi, I'm learning what? Yes. So that's another word point, and most of you will notice it when you are browsing in a site. Something just pop up, pim, successful, pim, failed, pim, this, pim. Those are called what? Alerts. Are we communicating? You see it most in Java. You see it most in like most of you who are in front end. You see it mostly when you are using Bootstraps, right? Those are already customized. It's beautiful for you. Of course, there's a way of doing that. So another way is to write in the browser directly, right? So another way to do what? To write in the browser. So to write in the browser, now I will already use alert function and always show you how the alert function works. So another one is to use what we call inner HTML method. Are we communicating? The inner HTML what? Method. So this inner HTML method is used to access and modify HTML content, in bracket HTML content. So let me explain to you. This is the HTML content, right? Then this Skyline ICT Consult Ltd. This is an HTML content. So they said inner HTML. So the way to write inner HTML, let me show you. Inner, then capital letter HTML. This is the inner HTML. So it is a property, right, used to modify the HTML contents, the content of an HTML what? Element, right? So what we are going to do here is that we'll say that we want to modify this man, but there's a problem. And what is that problem? The problem here is, the problem here is, how do we, okay, you can say inner.html, you can say equals to, Skyline. Sky. Let's just use sky. Then when you come here, of course, nothing is going to happen. Even though you come to inspect and click this man, of course, you are not seeing anything. Then the problem is that there must be a connection between this man. You need to call that man you are talking to. Are you getting me? Let's for example, I want to put this, I want to write something in the P. I need to call P. P come. P will answer me. If I say I want to put it in H1, I need to call H. H1, please, I want to put something. How do we call it? This is not the topic, but I will need to do this. Are you getting me? There's a way you can talk to. If you notice, how many of you have used ID? When you go to an element, you use ID, you use class. Like in HTML, CSS. So when you want to put red in P, you know to have a lot of P, you need to give it a classes, right? A class. Are we communicating? So now, the same thing implies in JavaScript. Let's say we want to talk to this gentleman here. We want to talk to this P. And we want to call this P in JavaScript. How do we communicate to this P? It's either we use class or we use ID. But let's use the one we are popular, right? The one we are popular with. Are we communicating? The one that we are popular with. So I can say, okay, let me add class here of P. I hope you understand what I did here. Then I want to call this man inside an HTML element. So what I will do is that because this man is a document, everything we are here is a document. So if you don't want to save it in a variable, so because we are not learning variable yet, we'll go back to variable. This man is a document. Do you agree with me? This page we are is a document, right? Mr. Nkemgood. Good and
James, Umo, please put your mic.
good and fine. So you agree with me that this P is a document. So what I need to do, I need to call P. Remember, let's say I have another P here. I have another P here. Let me remove the class. Right? Of course, when I call this P, it will not affect this man. So I say, okay, I want to change something in P. I want to remove a skyline and put another thing. So what I will need to do is that I'll come here and say document. Because this thing is document, right? It is document. 2 dots. Remember that properties I told you? Inner. Inner HTML. So just record inner. Oh, inside HTML is inner. You understand? If you people like me that like things that the God have created, inner. You understand? You know what I'm talking about. Inner. So the inner HTML, then you assign equals to. You assign what equals to. But at this point, we are not referencing this man. Are you getting me? We are not referencing this man. Even though we are use inner, we are not referencing what? This man. We need to reference this man. How do we call that man? So, how do we call what? That man. So, how do we call this man then? So, this is what we are going to do. So what I'm going to do is that we'll come here. This is wrong. We'll say, okay, document. Document dot get element by class name, element by ID, element by tag name, element by tag name NS. Do you guys understand the properties or the method? So when you look at here, the type of this object is called a method. Do you understand the method we have? And can you go, if you can see this, can you pronounce this for us? Maybe you can explain to us with your basic understanding.
Get element by tag name NS.
Okay. Get element by ID. I can decide, okay, I want to get element by tag name or element by class name. So by class name means that I am calling this class name, which is P. Are we communicating? So I'm calling this class name. Get element by class name. I'll open and close because it's a method. Then here I put the class name. For me to write class, you know that I need to put what? Dot P. So when I put dot, remember you want to add a class, you put what? Dot. Right? Because it's a class name you are using. Dot. Are we communicating? So get element by class name dot P. So the class name we are calling there is what? Is dot P. Or sometimes it don't necessarily mean, it don't necessary for you to write P. You can just, as you are calling class name, you already know when they call P is referring to class. So if you are using the one called query selector, it's another way of getting another element. You can use dot P. So P dot inner capital HTML. So this is not HTML. What this code is doing is that please get element by class name, the element that has class name as P. Then when you get it as P, write something inside that HTML. I just replace skyline ICT Consult Ltd. So let's quickly see what is happening. Then okay, let's right click and see the error we are having. So if you notice here, we have on check time error, blah 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 blah. So let's see the error. Okay, welcome. Okay, this is not an error. So let's go on. Let's know why this is not showing. Go back and check what you have written. So get element by class name P equals to, I think you are doing the right thing. Get element by class name. Okay, let's try dot. I think dot. Okay, yeah, you need dot. But hopefully, let's see what's going to happen. All right. No, we don't need dots. It's just showing us Skyline ICT. So let's know what is happening, why it's not coming up. So here we say document dot get element by P.
Chris,
Please, who is that person?
Christopher, Ever, mute your mic. Chief Skyline can go on, sir.
Please, try to make sure that you regulate the class so that people will not be distracting us. I'm supposed to make you admin. I don't even know how to do that. So okay. So let's see what the problem is. Inner.html equals to, so we are calling this P, right? We are calling this P get element by class name, then get element by class name. So let's see the problem we are having. Inner.html, alright, get element by class name, we're passing this P. So this P P element, let me write it this way, then copy this and so get element by class name dot inner HTML. So inner.html, I think that inner.html property is okay. Get element that. So let's check what is the problem. Let me comment on all this so that, okay, right, let me also comment on this and see what we are doing. So this just had to comment Control S slash. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. Reload Skyline ICT Consult is not getting that. Get element by class name. Okay, let's try to do. I am replacing Skyline ICT for this. So why is it not come? Okay, I think we don't need to add anything here. Yeah, I think we don't need to add anything here. If you really want it to appear, that should be empty. I think that is the problem. That should be empty. So this needs to be empty. So yeah, we can move this back to our P. Move this back to our P. So it means that this needs to be empty. So nothing needs to be here, right? So I can decide to also come here and say, okay, style, color, red. So yeah, I think we are good to go. Right, let's see what we have. That should be there. Document dot get element by ID P equals to inner.
So I think I know where the issue is coming from.
Okay, can you help us please? Because me, I'm confused. We are doing the.
Okay, when you're using get element by class name, you need to specify an index.
What do you mean by index?
I know that. I believe that's why it's just after the class name you got. You define an index. Put 0 in square bracket.
No. You don't,
HTML.
you don't need that. You don't need that. Okay, let's try. Let's try. Okay, let's try to use the most popular. P. Right. Let's try to use the P, which is ID. So then what you need to do here is to get element by ID. So let's just do get element dot get element by ID. So class name, right? So let's check that out. Do we need an hash here? I don't think I need an hash there. Okay, I think that work. I don't know why get element by class name should also work. Get element by ID.
So it can only work. The class name it can only work if you do what I told you. Put in that index.
You need to put an index for get element by class.
Class name, you have to put an index.
I'm not sure,
Yes,
but I'll be using JavaScript for a long time. Although the one I usually use is
you can try it.
okay, we'll try that. The one I usually use is although it's not the scope of our study today, because I just decided to do that today, but to just get the element. So if I want to also check something,
This selector.
so you don't need anything to be able to get what they call it, to get element by class name. Okay. You can only see what you will do. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now what you get element by the class name, that if you are not saving it in a variable, even though if you are saving it in a variable, yeah, you can only use a what do they call it, an index. And I don't want to go too far because most people don't know what's an index. So when you get the index, you can go through that. But for now, let's use what we have. So what we did here is to, like I'm saying, we'll be able to get this. Let me try and add some things here and see. Okay, so you can either decide to add something here or you leave it. So this is how you can print. So we've been able to do 2 ways, 3 ways: console, alert, and these we have a little top time because I used the class name, but we'll come to this later. You can either use ID or use get element by tag name. I think so. Can either use what we call get element by tag name, get element by tag name. So what we are going to do here, we'll add P, right? This will still work. Let's check that out. Yeah. Okay, tag name it didn't work. Okay, I think by tag name should be, is it this way or this way? I don't know. I think get a number by tag name, but let's stick with what work with us because ID is majorly used for JavaScript, but we will come to that later. So this actually it's not the scope of our class today, but let's just stick with what we have already. Get element by ID. So this ID means to get element by hash. So the ID, to just call the ID, and that will work for us. So these are 3 major ways you can call in element in JavaScript. So like I was saying, back to variable, the variable we had, let me comment on this. So like I was saying about the variable we had, right? So the variable are just like a container where you can use to store in information. So let's quickly write some of the variables. So if you come to this variable, if I want to refer to whatever that is here, so what I need to do is just come here and say console dot log, then you can call in food, right? Now the reason why we don't use this console dot log food. Now this is a string, right? Like kind of a stream. Why this are what is a variable. Have a communication. So this is a stream, this is a stream, and this is a variable. So when you're calling a variable, you don't need to use quotation mark, right? You don't need to use quotation, right? You don't necessarily need to use the quotation. So what you need to do is just call this. So if we print this out in our console, right click and come here and inspect, then you will notice that we have only food. The food that we have is the string, right? Which is this food here. If you comment on this food, and of course you call this, it's not going to give anything because we are using an empty variable. So let me say, okay, I add something like my JS software training, right? Then I come here again because I've already called the variable. So when you store a variable with a name, you use the name of that variable to refer to the contents inside that variable. So when I call this food and come here, what I'm going to see here is my JS software training. So this is actually what I'm talking about, variable. So you can store something in a variable. It don't necessarily mean that, okay, you can store just a string, you can store numbers, right? So let's store number. You can say let's num equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I come here to pre-console dot log, then print num. So this number. That means I have stored this in this variable. Then I call the word the number. So let's quickly call the number. You can see the number. You can see this one is a string. So that is just the basic about what? About a variable. Now let's look at variable naming. Are you communicating? Variable what? Naming.
Naming.
Yes. So if you want to name a variable, there is a pattern in which you can name a word, a variable. Are you communicating?
Yes, sir.
So there is a pattern. There's a pattern in which you can use to name what? A variable. And number one is the variable name must should convey the purpose of that variable. So that variable name must contain the purpose of that variable. Let's say I want to save a variable for list of item, right? I want to store a variable for list of item. I can decide to say, okay, store or shop, which is equals to, we have list. So this is what we use to, if you call this and then you do console.log and then you call this and you say type of, right? You know, the last time we used type of to be able to get types of what? Of objects. So we say shop. So what is going to happen here is that this will tell us the type of the shop. So let's also do let's equals to 1 2 3 4 5. Then let also print the type of the norm. Type open norm. Then the type of the food. Type of what? Food. So we'll come to our variable, and then the first one is string, second is number, and third is what's an object, or you call it what? A list. So object is a container that houses list of things. Just that when you have list of things, list of banana, this. So let's quickly go and add list of things here. I can say call banana, what the name, apple, sorry, banana, apple. We have milk, things that I like, beans. Then so these are list of what? Object. So if you come here and decide to comment on this and decide okay, print console.log then shop. Done. Right? So we see shop. So when you come here, you will see an object. Now, if you remember our brother, comrade, said we should use 0. And most of you will say, what is 0? Now when you look at here, the way JavaScript recognize object is totally different. We'll come to object later because this is not object. So when you look at this, you see they have banana, apple, milk, and beans. Now in another context, we have 0 banana, 1 apple, 2 milk. Why are you having 2? I thought you should start with 1, right? So in programming, the computer count from 0, right? 0 1 2 3 4 and so on and so forth. So when you look at the conventional of arranging the objects or the lists, we have lists and objects. Then in that list we have 0 1 2 3 4. So these numbers are there for reference purposes. Let's say, okay, in all these lists, I don't want to eat banana. I want to eat beans. Then how can I get 1 beans? Just beans alone. It then call 3. Yeah, you getting me? You just call 3. So let me show you. Let's say I want to eat beans. I don't want to eat banana. I just need beans alone. We're not going to object. I'm not showing you because we're having an object. Remember, this thing is installed in a variable. For us to have access to this information, we temporarily store this in a variable. We can use it and do whatever we like before saving it in the database. We can convert it to any element, use it and do whatever. Then before converting or sending it to what? To our database. I can say, okay, console.log shop. In this shop, I use list. So let's say I see banana was 3, right? Is banana 3 or 2? Beans, is it 3 or 2? Who can remind me? The index, is it 3 or 2?
3.
Good. I call 3. This process what we call indexing. So indexing is a process of numbering a group of objects. referring them by number. So computer don't even understand this thing as a beans. It understand this thing as number. These are number representative of beans in a computer term, so that the computer can understand what is there. That means that whatever you are storing in programming, every programming language, the conventional pattern or the conventional way of doing that, or the computer storing those information, is using 0 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. It does not store this information as beans, as rice, as milk. It's only variable that store those information and then give you access to this information. If we come in here, what do we see here? Beans. Now, you can see common writing just 3 and you are getting beans. No, it's not possible. Let's call another console.log, and we have shop. See this shop as a cat in GG, a cat in daily shop, a cat in daily word shop. So I can come here and decide to add group. So this, I have all this in my shop list. Are we communicating? So I have all this in my shop. So I want you to see the list as the list of shop I have here. Are you getting me? The list of shop I have here. It can add as much as how many goods you want. So see this thing as a list of shop. I remember I said the variable store things. Not just one thing alone. It store a lot and thousands of datas. So now when it comes to our inspect, you notice that okay, we have 0, 1, 2, 3. You can see that the conventional name here is what 3. And the computer only understand number 3 as beans. So next time, when you have upgrade 100 and you want to refer to number 100, you need to start from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is 100. There's a way of getting the last number. There's a way of getting the first. We are going to do all this. It's gradually. But now we're talking about variable, not an object. Are we communicating?
Yes, sir.
Are we communicating? So,
Yes, sir.
now a conventional name of writing a variable, we call it legal and illegal variables. So let's look at legal variables before we move into illegal variables. Then before we move into types of variables. We have a lot of variables. I'm going to list them, but now I'm using let that be, so you can understand that when I use let A is the variable storing that stuff. So that's why I'm using let. So let's move on. So conventional name of writing variable. 1, a variable must be short and explicit. Explicit or descriptive. Let's say I want to write an age, a date of birth of person, DOP equals to 1990. I was born in 1999. Are you getting me? That's my age. If you don't like it, go to court. So I was born in 1999. Then it's, I think 2000. Sorry, I didn't. In Nigeria we increase our age. Yeah, 2000 is fine. All right. So I like it. Take me to court. Now a variable must start with a letter or underscore. You cannot come here and write this. Sorry, as you have let. No, I don't want to use let. I want to use string. So you can see that I'm using a different variable now. So I'm going to explain this later. Then a variable must start with what? A name. Let's say these are legal variables. If you are in this class tonight, I don't know what is variable. Your teacher will teach you. What do you mean? A variable must start with a letter or underscore. Let's say, okay, I have a variable var numbers of student equals to 200. Are you getting me? So a variable must start with an underscore. A variable must not contain number. A variable names are case sensitive. Let's say const date of birth equals to 1993 or 1994, anything. Then now a variable name cannot be any name. You cannot come here and say variable or a reserved name, right? It must not be what? A reserved name. Are we communicating? A reserved word name. You cannot come here and say pass.
Yes, sir.
Pass. You can say let's say let to type of type of equals to 200. What do you see? Type of what? 200. What did you notice?
Error.
You notice error. So a variable name must not be a reserved name. That a reserved name in every programming language already built-in function, right? You can say a variable name cannot be array. You can say let alert or array. That's what I did. Let's say alert or array. That's what it is. You have array here. This, let me just copy it and paste here. Let array equals to 1 2 3 4 5. All this is not acceptable. I think array is not a reserved name. They have a reserved name which we are going to see later. So these are called legal variable. Now if I print this, let me show you something. I say console console.log, then dop, okay, you see problem. This is my keyboard there. Console.log excuse me.
Your screen is not still.
Just excuse me, I'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, console.log date of birth. So if you are, I'll come here and come to this place. So now you notice that we have this 1993 and 2000. Now, if you notice this name, this man is the same, but the difference is what? Case. This is uppercase, this is lowercase. So variables are case sensitive. I will explain. You can hear, you notice that I've used like three different variables here, which I'm going to explain the difference between those variables, and I'm also going to give you example on why when to use each of the variable. Moving ahead, let's look at the illegal variable. The illegal variable, or you can call it Nigeria government variable. Are we together? Nigeria government variable. So let's say the illegal
APC variables.
Yeah, sorry, APC variable. Legal variables. So you hold your control and then / right? That is how to, or you can do like this, Zanzam, then you write it. So that's comments. I don't need to choose comment now. So illegal variable is 40 shops. Okay, let's use a let 40 shops equals to
Can anyone see Skyline's screen?
Can I see my screen? Yeah, you need glasses.
Yeah, you can see your screen.
Okay.
My network is normally fresh.
Okay, carry this and wicked voice come out to you. Alright. So illegal variable. So another illegal variable is use numbers of students. Let's the students goes to so another illegal variable is space. Let's date of birth goes to 1990. So if you notice that all these variables are not allowed. Another one is reserved name. Let of, let's say, type of equals to sky. Right? So these are illegal variable and these are legal variable. So we've been able to learn how we can print different objects in JavaScript. The one you can print in COSO, the one you can print in HTML document, the one you can print using alert. Then we went ahead to look at to assign variables, right? To assign variables, and of course after assigning variables, we'll look at a way to assign variables, both string, numbers, and go. Then we'll also move on to look at legal and illegal variables. So before I move on, variable can also be reassigned, right? Can also reassign variable, but we are going to look at that when we start the difference between most of these variable. So moving ahead, we've been able to look at different variable names, and of course those variable names we've seen how to assign or declare those variables. So this process is called declaring a variable, right? So declaring a what? A variable. So we declare a variable, we assign a what? A name. So here is called declare. So if you are called declare, then we assign a what? We assign a name, right? So assigning of the value is called what? Assigning a name. So declaration is when you type the variable. Another thing we want to look at, in Java key, there are three major ways to declare a variable. There are what? Three major ways to declare a variable. And I'd like to move down here and permit me to just comment on all this. Comment on all this and move it down. So, three ways to declare a variable. So let me quickly fire down so that we'll close. It's almost 11. We're going to build one project, so don't sleep. One project tonight. Now, of course, if you notice, we have so we have this var. So in this var, we say var list of food. Can say this, which is an empty object. Then another one we have is let's. Another one have what? Let product equals to this. I can say equals to phone or equals to food. I want to change this to price of food. Price of food. Then I have 10 naira. You can, so let me just leave it used as a number. So then we have a const I'll see let's see house underscore equipment equals to LG television. Okay, now when you look at this variable, they are all variable, and you agree with me that they have their different conventional way of the way they work. So the first one, which is var, a var variable, I will call them a functional scope or a global scope. Why do we call them global scope? Now, when you call a variable, that variable will not be used, must be, let's say you call a variable of list of shop, list of things that people have ordered. In that list of things people have ordered, you store those things in a particular function. And you want to still use that variable outside that function. If you do that in lets and const, it will not work. Now, what I mean, they are global variable, global scope. It means that they are variable throughout the entire function in which they are declared, or if declared outside of any function, they are global variables. They can be declared, redeclared, and updated anywhere within the scope. However, they do not have a block level scope, meaning they are visible even outside of the block in which they are declared. I just speak English now, and let's do that practically. And then when we're done doing that practical, we compare all the variables and know the best one to be using. Now, let me say here, I have val. I've already declared it already. So let me comment on this, please. I say I have val. In that val, let's say items equals to, let's see, 500. Now that item equals to 500. Let me just call a normal block. I don't want to call a function now, so that you will not get confused. That normal block, I say okay, I call the same item and reassign that item let's say 700. Now remember what I told you. I told you this is a scope. This is what we call a what? A scope or a function or a block. Are you getting me? Let's call it a block. Let's call it a block. So we have called this item here val, and we call this item here val. Remember what I told you? I said they are visible throughout the entire function in which they are declared, or if declared outside of the function, they are global variables. Now this is a local variables. Now when I say declare outside the function, that means when I come here and call this outside this block scope, are you getting me? And call it this way. Let's say console dot log. I remember what I said. I said they are visible throughout the entire function in which they are declared, or if declared outside of any function, they are global variable. They can be redeclared and updated anywhere with the scope. So that means if I call this man here, I can come here and change the value. Remember, if I call val item, I can call that item and change the value of that item after calling the variable. In Go, do you understand what I said? Can you explain to me? So that when they are calling on that variable, you know the difference.
Look, that if you call the item 500, if you are calling it outside the scope, instead of reflecting 500, it will reflect 700.
No. I mean, if you call it outside the scope, look at the scope here. This is the scope. Are you getting me? Now, if we store this variable here and call it inside the function, you can reassign any value to this variable. And when you assign any value to this variable, you can call it outside the function, which is here. Items. This is outside the function. This is a function. See this as a function. And any variable you call outside this function is called a global word variable. Are we communicating? Now let me read that in again. I said, meaning they are visible throughout the entire function in which they are declared, or if declared outside of any function, they are global variables. That means any variable you declare outside its own scope is called a global variable. Are we communicating? Any variable you declare outside here is called a global what? Variable. Because you have passed its premises and it's going to another premises. Now, and this variable can be redeclared and updated anywhere with their scope. However, they do not have block level scope, meaning they are visible even outside of their scope. Now let's quickly view this. Now remember, I assign the item as 500, but when I call that item, it did not show 500. It updated the newest variable either in a scope or outside the scope. That means when you call val, when you call a val, anytime you call that val, either inside the scope, let's say I want to do something, either inside the scope, anytime you call it and assign any object, it will use the latest one. Let's also come here and say val item 1500. So we have let me reload. Okay, we don't need to. Okay, yeah, good. Now what do you see here? 1005. That means it can be redeclared and updates. It can be redeclared and update anywhere within their scope. Are you getting me? Anywhere within what? Their scope. They do not have block level. When the do not have block level, that means it do not have any block level. Now remember, this val was actually declared here. We declare it here, we reassign it here. It can be reassigned. Then let's look at another variable called let. This let has a block variable. Let's say this, and we have 750. Let goose equals to what? 750. Right? Now, the lets have block level, meaning they are only visible within the block in which they are declared. They cannot be updated, but not declared within the same scope. That means this, when it called lets, are you getting me? You cannot redeclare it or reassign it to any scope. Now what it means is that, let's look at it and see. Let's print this console dot log and print goose. Abi? Yes. Then let's call the block element. In that block element, say let's goose. Abi? Goose equals to 3,500. Right? Now, you can also console the log. You can say here, let me say, I want to combine stream and number, but let me just do it. This is outside the block. So for me to have variable and number, I need to put plus. Good and fine. Then let me copy this also and paste here. You can see this is inside the block. So this is just that I'm just using it to give reference. It's just normal text, right? So for you to have variable and this, you use plus. This is called concatenation to add different types of objects together. Usually type of objects are not allowed, but for you to do that, you need to do then let's call this then outside the word the scope. Remember, in this man, let me take it up. Remember, let me format my code very well so you will see it. Let me also do the same thing here so that you not think that it's different. This is why I'm doing this so that I can see what I'm doing here. This is outside the block. Let me call item. Outside the block item. Let me be specific. Block items, right? So inside the block, it will be inside the block item. So now when you look at this code, let's print this. Then we come here and then we come to this. Let load. Item is not defined. So let's check what is there. Item is not defined. So it's not defined means that we did not assign. Yeah, we did not assign the item
at the end.
So to be an X. So now let me explain this. Now if you come here, you see that this is outside the block items 500. This is inside the block item 700. Now let me explain something. Let me make it very specific using val. Using val. Using let's. Using let's. Okay, good. Now when you see the first variable that we declare inside the block item, okay, we see the one we declare, this is outside the block item, is using the val is 500. Then the one we declare inside the block item using the val, it's 700, right? Now this is outside the block using the let 700. Outside the block using the let 3500. Now if you notice here, let me show you guys. Where is it? Okay, trying to grab some things here. What do we have here? 3500.
If I should have shown fine.
I'm coming. So let me comment on this. Okay, this 700, this 700, this is 3005. This is inside the block. Goose, coming. Let's use 7, right? Outside this, 750, 700, 750. Okay, let's check something. Okay, goose. Try to confirm something. Let's y equals to this goose. So okay, let's call this let's goose equals to, let me comment on this please. Let goose equals to 3005. Now if we look at here, we call this man inside the scope, right? We call this man outside the scope. Then we call this man outside the scope after we've declared the variable and reassign 15. Now this man, we call it outside the scope, we call it inside the scope, right? Now if you come this man here and I'll comment on this and call this man, just look at me. Now if you notice what happened here is that this man cannot be declared. You cannot assign this man. You cannot reassign this man again. So if you print this, console dot log and say goose. Fuck. Goose. Then when you come back here, let it load. He will say goose has already been. There's what?
There's no X inside it.
Okay.
There's no X.
Yes. Okay. Now, when you come here, you notice that goose identifier has already been declared. But we didn't have the same error. That means when you use this man here, are you getting me? When you use this man here, comment on this. Now, if you notice this man, let's start from here. If you notice here, we call this man here, we call this man here. Still no problem. Let me comment on something. Then let me comment on this as well. Let me just comment on this. Right? And then let's come back. Let it load. Now, when we look at the one that has item, okay, hold on, trying to check something. Goose. Okay, so now when you call this man, let me also console.log this. Console.log. Item. If you notice here, we have item as 200, 500. Here we have item as what? As nothing, right? We call item. Here we have item outside the var. Now outside the var, let me show you something. Let it load so you will see some. Okay, good. Now we call item outside the var. We're having 1.5. That means in var we can reassign the variable outside the scope. Are you getting me? Remember here the scope. Remember the scope started here. This is not outside the scope because this have been called before the scope. Are we communicating? Remember the scope started here. So we can still call the same variable and assign another object outside the scope. But in this let, if you assign a variable inside the scope, or anyway, this cannot be reassigned. It means that you can only have this within the block in which they are declared. Are you getting me? If you comment on this now, John, let me comment on this. Let me comment on this. Then come here and comment. Are you getting me? Let me also comment on this. Then I want to access this item here. This is the only one I want to access. Remember, this man is inside the block, right?
Yes.
It's inside the block. Then let me call this man and see what's going to happen. Now, when I call this man, you notice that this is inside the block item using what? Var. This is outside the block item using var. Now this man, let me comment on this so that you will see. I can call this man outside the function. Are we together? I can access this man outside this function. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
And even outside the function, I can still reassign this man. When I reassign this man, it's going to call update and declare the variable. That means I'm accessing this man outside the block using var. When I come here and then reload, you don't even need to reload. Just you notice that I have outside the val 1005. That 1005 is what I have here. I can call the variable inside, call it outside, and I can even call it without declaring either side. So it means that this man can be called inside his own scope, both inside and outside. This man can be called both inside and outside. Then let's do the same thing. Let's apply the same principle here. So here we comment on goose, and we comment on this. Then what we are going to do, we leave this man, then let on comment on this man. Sorry, let on comment on this man. Then let's come here and call this variable. Let's see what. Let's use let's use 500, and let's even comment on this man so that we know what we are doing. Let's comment on this man too. We'll come and comment it back. Then remember the same thing we did here is what we did on this man. Let's see the result we are going to get, please. Now, if you look at here, what we have here is 3,500. Are we communicating? Are we communicating? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now when we come here, 3,500. Wait, I thought I've changed this thing now. 500. Let's see what's going to happen. So we have 35 inside. Let's comment on this, please. We have 3,005. We have 500. So let's see what's going to happen. Now, what we have is what? Is 500, right? 500. Where is 500? Let's see what we have. We have 500 here. Now, let's comment on this and call the variable. What did you see here? What do you notice? Do you notice anything? Huh? Do you notice anything? It is a what? Goods not defined. Then why is it telling us good not defined? Did we define goods here? Please, anybody that is there, respond to me. Let me know we are flowing. Did you define goods here?
Yeah, we define goods first.
Good and fine. But why is it telling us goods not defined? After we want to access the variable. Now let's also do the same thing on this one using var. Now in this var, let me comment on this. Then comment on this. Let's see if we can get the item. Now you notice that outside the variable we have what?
700.
Let me add space. Sorry. So we need to just space here. What do we have outside the variable? Using var, what do you have?
700.
Then what do we have in the let inside the block? Now,
Inside is verified.
now,
Outside the block is really fine.
good. Now, if we look at here, we have inside the block 700, and we're able to access that item outside that block, not inside. Now, here we have inside goods, inside the block, but we can't access this man inside the block. That means that what I was explaining earlier, that means that the let block have block level, meaning they are only accessible and visible within the block. It cannot access it outside the block. Do you understand?
Yes.
It means that these goods can only be accessed outside, inside the block. If you call this man, he would say, Item not defined, goose not defined. That means there is no place that you have declared anything goose. This is what I mean. It's telling us uncut reference error. Goose is not what? Defined. That means you did not assign any variable called goose. But the way I assign this variable, the answer is yes. But that is why let is limited just inside the variable, inside the word, the scope of an object. Why this let? Why this let? It is not limited. Now, if you want to assign, if you want to access the pro goose, what you need to do is call it. And then when you call it, you will notice that the goose inside the block is what? Is what? Is 3,000.
Accessible. It's visible.
Is 3,500. That means you can know that the difference between scope and let is that val is a global variable. It can be accessed both inside and outside, and you can reassign the variable, declare the variable. Why the let cannot be declared outside and cannot be accessed outside the scope? Do you guys understand? So what is the disadvantage of using let and val? So if you are using let and val, that means if you are using the function, it can only be accessed inside that function. But if you want to use it outside that function, it can only call the function name and use it, not the variable. But when you call the function name, then you pass in the variable for you to access specific object that you need. Do you understand? Do you understand? Now let's move to one called const. So I'm calling the const. I'm almost rounding up here. But I need to do one thing before we wrap up. Just one practical. So after now I'll go to the practical. Now let's call the variable of const. Now const are also block variable, but they can be reassigned, however, if the value is constant. As the name imply, const. Are you getting me? They are the same with let, but they can be reassigned. I think I've done all those ones. So you can use val, you can use let, you can use constant. So the more we do more project, the more you understand. This is where explain when we are writing a project. Do you guys understand? So even though you don't understand in this class, don't give up. When we are writing project, you will start understanding those items. Are we together? Together? So let's quickly build a project. Are you getting me? Let's quickly build a project. So the project we are going to do is that we are going to quickly build a button. In that button, people can come in that button and then be able to type in their name, and then what we are going to do is that we can also reassign that item. Are you getting me? So let's quickly write a script, a very simple script. Are we together? Are we good to go? Can we fire down with the script?
Good to go.
All right, just watch, please. For what we have learned tonight, let's just use it and build a project. So after that, it is what it is. So I will not give you guys assignment till when we start understanding the concepts. So project.html. So in this project.html, I'm going to be very, very fast about that. It is what it is. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's move on. The move, we move. We milf. Somebody say we milf. Alright. We're hungry. We milf. Yeah. Despite I understand that things are hard. People may not be coming to classes as usual. But we need to understand that there is a reason for this. Are you getting me? There is a reason for this sufferness. I know most people may not have money for data, money for fuel, but please tell them don't give up. I will drop a voice note after today's class to encourage some people. So okay, yeah. Let me say we have a button. Let me call a button to so a button. Alright, okay. Here we have HTML button. HTML. So what we are going to do here, we can call a class so that we can refer to, we can call it in our what? In our, I can see hit. Okay, click. So if you come to HTML, you can see that okay, projects. So we need to open our projects. Open projects, and then so you see that we have this button, and we just want to make it this way. Can quickly add some style if he is kind of person that has some style, font size 200, so 50 pixels. So let's see, it's too big. 20 border. So let's leave that way. So if you want to design, you can go and design your own. So this is what we have, and then another thing we have here is a write-up where our write-up will be stored. You understand? So I call it history. I'm not going to pass anything on that history. I want to leave it empty. Then class, sorry, or ID. There is ID. Sorry, so that you can know that we are doing with JavaScript directly. ID, come. Okay, I want to include Django. Don't kill me. What are including? All right, let's say body. Oh, body. All right. So what we are going to do now? We need to call.
On the button, you use class. So are you not going to use ID too?
Oh, that should be an ID. Sorry. So we need to call this so what we need to do, we need to call this inside JavaScript, right? So I'm going to save it in a variable, right? So I can use let's or constant. I use const. So const. Let me start storing a variable. You know what variable is all about. Now, any name can go, right? I can give it any name I want to store the variable. I can say button click equals to. So like I told you, I want to get this. I can use get document. Sorry, document. Please note that this insert entity.
I thought it's get.
Yes. Is that? Go on. Go on,
I
please.
thought you write get document get dot document.
No. It's document first before get now.
And dot get.
Document dot
Element.
get element by ID. You understand? By ID. So you not use get element by ID, then you are not using ID here. You understand? So
Yes.
I need to pass in the ID name, which is button. So copy this and
Bottom.
paste here. Yeah. So another thing is const. Then body